Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to Ladies Can We Talk. So glad you've tuned in. We have a great show coming up tonight, and this is Debbie Georgatos and Ladies Can We Talk. And this very first segment, I always do a Speak Up for America segment, and I want to just jump right in and tell you something is simply breathtaking that your Department of Justice, paid for by your tax dollars, is doing. All of this relates to immigration. And in this election cycle, in 2016, this presidential election year, there's a lot of talk around the immigration issue and on many subjects of how we secure the border and what do we do with people who arrived illegally and they're still here, and how do we handle them, and what's our going forward, our immigration policy. And I want to tie something or make which I think is the most important point about immigration. As I've said in the show many times before, the Democrat Party happily refuses to secure the border, happily welcomes more and more illegal immigrants, allows children crossing into America, into camps in Texas and around the country, who have no legal right to be here, who just pour over our border. And the entire reason the Democrat Party supports this is because they see an ocean of new Democrat voters. They are working as hard as they can to be sure that people who enter illegally have a fast track somehow to citizenship. One way that happens is if they are designated as refugees. But I want to tie something about immigration and the whole fabric of America's future, because the bottom line of the immigration issue is this: when do people who cross the border or enter America illegally, if ever, have the right to vote as an American citizen? When do they acquire that right? Because if the Democrats thought that these immigrants flooding into our borders would be voting for constitutional limited government, that they'd be voting for low taxes and keeping the government dependency programs small, if they thought they were for people that they would vote for conservative ideas, the Democrats would have built the wall themselves the moment President Obama got elected. This is where we are. I want to tell you something truly breathtaking. In fact, the judge presiding over this case I'm about to tell you about said he has never in his entire practice of law or his time on the bench observed the Department of Justice act in such an indescribably incomprehensible way as they are behaving in this case. Let me just tell you what this case is, because we're going to talk about this case and what it signals to everyone who's paying attention about the Democrats' intent on this immigration issue. And I'm going to just go back in history a little bit after that and tell you how we got here. But here's the case. There is a U.S. agency, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, the EAC, Election Assistance Commission. That commission granted permission to 4 states, Kansas, Georgia, Alabama, and Arizona, to enforce their proof of citizenship voter registration requirement. So those 4 states have a voter registration requirement that says you have to show proof of citizenship. Left-wing groups, including League of Women Voters and a bunch of other left-wing groups, are suing to stop the federal government from allowing these states to say, yes, it's okay, states, you can actually demand proof of citizenship before these people can register to vote. So these left-wing groups actually went to federal court and they sought a kind of an emergency thing called a TRO. And anyway, they went to federal court to seek an instant order, a temporary restraining order, and a preliminary injunction. Essentially, they want the judge to tell the EAC, you can't let those 4 states actually require proof of citizenship before they register voters. What those groups are saying is, we want non-citizens to vote. In fact, they're demanding the right of non-citizens to vote. They're trying to say those states have no right to uphold the most basic American idea we all know is the right thing, which is you have to be a citizen to vote. So these left-wing organizations are trying to stop this EAC from doing that, and the Department of Justice paid for by your tax dollars, run by your president, Obama, the Department of Justice came into the case on the side of the left-wing groups trying to get illegal aliens permitted to register to vote. The Department of Justice, instead of coming in behind the own federal agency, the EAC, and saying, yeah, of course these 4 states can say you have to show proof of citizenship, the Department of Justice came in on the side of the left-wing groups saying, let anyone register. We don't care if they're citizens. They do not have to prove their citizenship. So this case is pending, and this one author, I'm going to post the article on the Ladies Can We Talk Facebook page, but if you think this is just a surprise or a coincidence, or you can't see the roots of this, this is a long-term left-wing strategy to fundamentally change America that started a long time ago. In fact, many of you may recall, I recall when it happened, the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, also known as the Motor Voter Act. The federal government passed a law in 1993 saying that states were required, were mandated to, when people come to get a driver's license, you go ahead and register them to vote. And so it was this great supposed idea. We're going to encourage people to be more involved in their civics. It's their civic responsibility. You can make it easier so they get registered and they can vote. And at that time, I remember serious conservative thinkers saying this is one of the steps along the path to get to where we no longer make a distinction between citizens and non-citizens about who votes. And I used to be a little more innocent and thought, nah, that's pretty extreme. You can't really think the Democrats have that in mind. Trust me, folks, it's exactly what they had in mind. They started the process with the 1993 Motor Voter Act, so every state, every time you go to get your driver's license, automatically registers you to vote. And then the next thing that happened, so that was 1993, then starting in the early 2000s, how many of you recall how many left-wing states began issuing driver's licenses to people who were not United States citizens? So now federal law says you have to register them to vote when they come to get their driver's license. And then these states, in fact, I'll just tell you a few of them. California finally got done in 2013, the state of Connecticut in 2013, the state of Illinois in 2012, and there were other states in the battle, in this discussion about let's just let people who entered America illegally, have no legal right to be here, let's let them have driver's license. So now they have a driver's license, an automatic registration to vote, and now the Obama administration is, through the Department of Justice, taking the side of the people, saying, go ahead and let these people who cannot prove they are citizens, who may not have any right to be here, let them go ahead and register to vote. You see what's happening, folks, and this is all tied into this immigration issue and this election cycle. This is not about, as some of the left-wing people try to claim, about some people are intolerant and they don't like people who don't look like us. This is not about racism, xenophobia, anti-anybody. This is about the integrity of the American election process. You're supposed to understand what America is. You're supposed to understand the idea of America before you can come here to vote. What other country can you think of? And the answer is none. What other country can you think of that would allow you to wander in one day, enter their border illegally, sneak into the country, and start to vote? What country? Not Western Europe, not South America, not Mexico. They put you in jail for trying that in Mexico. Other countries do not permit this, but political correctness in this country has so skewed our basic patriotism and nationalism and pride about America that we are a little bit hesitant, a little bit fearful to say, hey, wait a minute. We shouldn't let non-citizens vote. We should have laws in place that protect against letting non-citizens to vote. So when you hear the immigration issue discussed in this election cycle in 2016, understand the whole issue gets to, at the end of the day, do people who do not have the legal right to be here have the right to vote? And that is the core of the issue. This is Debbie Georgatos, and ladies, can we talk? We are going off to our break. We have a great guest coming up the next segment. Rick Green, he's running for Texas Supreme Court. Come back. It'll be a very quick break. We're going to have a very fast show. Don't go away.